With all of the boxes I got saved up, I finally was able to unlock Buzz a few days ago. And let me tell you, this guy is really easy to play badly. At those higher trophy levels, it's very easy to just end up feeding your opponents the entire match and pretty much getting no kills yourself. But of course, you know I've got you all the tips for playing Buzz because he needs to be played really well in order to actually get value. But when he does get value, he's a very strong brawler. So with your main attack, something you can do is actually strafe counterclockwise in order to make your shots get closer together because you don't use them all at once. So that's going to make it easier to do a lot of damage if an opponent is at far away range. Usually you use this against other tank brawlers like El Primo. Now with your super, you do have an AoE effect whenever you use your stun, so you can actually hit through walls and stun opponents on the other side of a wall. Now this trick usually doesn't get much value for yourself because you're probably wasting all that time they're stunned trying to then walk around the wall and hit them. So usually you want to do this when you're providing support to your teammates who are on the other side of the wall. If they're about to score in Brawl Ball, you can stun your opponents through the wall that's blocking the goal, or you can just hopefully stun them long enough so your teammates can come in and kill them. But this super is the key part of Buzz, so you really want to make sure you're hitting it as much as possible. So with your super, you're able to auto aim it at about 6.1 tiles away from most opponents and guarantee a hit with it. And if you start guaranteeing hits with your super, you start to become a lot more of a threat on the field. Now, 6.1 tiles is a bit hard to measure just by looking at it, but actually anyone who's in that little dotted line around you that lets you farm your super has to be 6 tiles or closer to you. So if they're in that range, you know they're in a range where you can auto aim your super on them and have it be guaranteed to hit, unless they're very fast and got some speed buff of some sort. But if they are farther away, if it's possible, you can always aim at a wall next to the person that you're trying to jump on. You can still hit them with the AoE effect you get, but even if you don't hit them with the stun, you'll still be right next to them, and so it's basically the same as hitting them with like a gadget shot or something. But when you do aggress on these people, you have to make sure that you're constantly cycling your super. So every super you use, you only want to use it if you can almost or fully charge up another super from it. Now, a lot of times after you use your first super on someone, you'll be able to charge up another one while you're still on top of them, but I would recommend against doing a double stun on a lot of brawlers. A lot of times you're going to spend most of that second stun duration just reloading ammo anyway because you'll probably be out by that point, and if you end up dying on top of that, you'll be respawning without that supercharge, and so you won't have that stun effect again. So if you're remotely close to dying, I would strongly recommend against doing a double stun unless it's basically guaranteed to give you like a goal in Brawl Ball or guaranteed to give you a team wipe or something like that. So you just got to constantly be very careful about saving your super because it's very hard to charge up in the middle of the match from nothing. Also, when you do use your super, try to avoid using it on anyone with a dash ability like Mortis or Shelly or Surge because they can use that dash before you actually get to them and they won't be stunned. This also works for brawlers like Gene and Ems who have that pushback in an AoE around them, so they can actually time it right and push you back before you even hit them, and that's going to give them a pretty solid advantage and you kind of just waste your super. So stick to brawlers who can't do that. Another thing is that sometimes you'll be doing a lot of close range stuns if you're just sort of hiding behind a wall a lot of the match, which happens a lot, and right when they come around the corner you want to auto aim your super on them. But I would recommend against doing this if you don't have the star power because you're only going to be able to stun them for half a second, and a lot of brawlers you kind of just lose to because your unload speed is pretty slow and your reload speed is kind of slow for a melee brawler as well, and so most brawlers will be able to deal with you up close like that even after that stun. So I would recommend not doing that as much as possible if you don't have the star power unless it's absolutely necessary. Now let's take a moment to talk about the gadget plays because it's probably one of the most interesting parts of Buzz's kit and it has a lot of potential for some really strong plays in game. Also has a lot of potential for you to completely throw the game as well. So make sure to keep these tips in mind. In a mode like Brawl Ball, I think it's a good idea to use your gadget right at the start of the match just to get near your opponents. I don't think you should actually use your gadget on an opponent, but if you just use your gadget to get to a wall that the opponents are standing behind, you're going to get a head start on charging your super, and you don't really want to damage anyone before your first super, because a lot of times that just requires getting too close to your opponents and they're probably going to kill you before you can do that. And it's really important to stay alive at the beginning of the match in Brawl Ball or your opponents will get an instant advantage. So with this gadget, you can just get close to them and sort of force them back while constantly charging your super, and if you can get all 3 of them in your radius just with this first gadget because they're not expecting it, then you're really going to have a nice head start on getting that first super, which is the key to cycling your supers throughout the rest of the game. Now, if there's an isolated opponent and they have pretty low burst damage, you can just use your gadget on them because the stun won't really matter since you should be able to take them out anyway, but there are a lot of brawlers that you will pretty much instantly die to if you use a gadget shot on them and don't stun them, especially if they have any teammates nearby. They're usually going to have the DPS to deal with you. Even though you're an assassin, you don't have the most health in the world, so you do have to play a bit safer, and the gadget's usually not great for aggressing on particular brawlers. You mainly want to use it for mobility, to attach to walls, to bring yourself closer to people, or to escape. And you typically want to use it to escape in modes like Gem Grab and Siege, where you get something like a bolt or just a bunch of gems, and you can quickly escape before your opponents have any chance to deal with you. I think that's the time when you're going to use your gadget the most. But don't feel like you always have to use your gadget, because in a mode like Brawl Ball, where your supers are probably going to be the most important thing, those stuns are so good, it's okay to not use all your gadgets in one game. A lot of times, using your gadget is just bad because it takes away any supercharge you currently have and just puts it towards a super that's not going to give you any stun. So you might just not have any times where you want to use a gadget, and that's perfectly fine. I think it's a lot better to play Buzz more safely and consistently, trying to passively charge up your super rather than going in for these weird aggressive plays and end up feeding your opponents for like half the match. Now, since Buzz is pretty solid in Brawl Ball, there are also some tips that are specific to the mode that you can use to just hard outplay your opponents. So this first thing I'm not actually sure is intended by Supercell and might get fixed in a future update. If you're watching this later on in the future, it might have been changed already, but whenever a ball is about to be scored, if it's possible, try to get in range of one of your opponents, so that way they're charging up your super, because there's like a delay time for the animation to play that goes like 3 seconds long whenever a ball is scored, and if the opponents are in your range, you're still going to be charging your super, even though no one can move or attack or do anything like that. And so you can actually get a pretty massive chunk of your super charged up just from this time if you get people in your range when the ball is about to be scored. A lot of times you don't really have control over whether or not your opponents are going to be near you at that time, but it's something to keep in mind. Now, whenever you're about to score, a great play to make with Buzz is to use your super to stun your opponents and then take the ball that they're probably holding or is hopefully near, and you just go straight for the ball and try to throw it in the goal. When you play other stun brawlers like Frank, typically what you do is you use your super on the goal, break open all the walls, and stun as many people as you can, and then you proceed to try to kill them, because the ball is probably pretty far away since you're a long-range brawler, and so it's better to make sure you get the team wipe and guarantee that goal. But the thing is with Buzz, because he has that mobility from his super, he'll probably be right on top of the ball when he inflicts the stun, and so that gives you that opportunity to actually get the ball past the opponents and throw it in the goal. So I would typically prioritize that over actually killing your opponents. And the same goes for defense. If your opponents are about to score, if you use your stun on them right before they do, pick up the ball and throw it away. Don't focus on killing them before they make it into the goal, because typically throwing the ball away is going to stall them for longer, as long as your teammates are right behind you to back them up and actually deal the damage. You always have to evaluate, because there are times where you can just get a full team wipe from stunning them right in front of the goal, and in those cases that probably would be the better play. And also in Brawl Ball, your gadget can come in handy not just for getting near your opponent so you can supercharge, but also just for getting a free super so you can super shot the ball. If you ever get a team wipe and you just need to make that ball get to the goal as fast as possible, you can always do the quick play of bouncing the ball off a nearby wall and using your gadget while it's bouncing, and that way you'll instantly charge your super and you'll have your super shot ready so that we can get the ball to the goal just a little bit faster. Even if you don't get a team wipe, just being able to use your gadget instantly, walk on the ball, and then super shot from a really far distance away is a very good play, because a lot of times your opponents aren't going to be expecting it because they see you without your super, and so you can take them by surprise and win a few games that way as well. So keep on practicing your Buzz plays, and I guess that's it.